Hi, I'm Dr. Thomas Armstrong, and I'm making a series of videos to introduce my new book, The Power of Neurodiversity, Unleashing the Advantages of Your Neurodivergent Brain. This is a completely revised and updated second edition of a book that I wrote in 2010. The topic of this video is a word about negative niche construction. In video number 5, I focused on niche construction in general and positive niche construction, and I'll just do a little summary here. Niche construction is the process by which animals build their own environments in order to help them survive. In other words, it's an alternative to natural selection, where an animal would have to wait around for a random mutation until they received a trait that was adaptive to their environment. In this case, the animals pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, so to speak, and create their own environment which favors their existence and allows them to pass their genes on to the next generation. And I used beaver building a dam, spider spinning a web, birds building a nest, ants building anthills, bees building hives. In each of these cases, they're creating an environment that allows them to do what they do best, whether it's to make honey or spin a great web to catch lots of flies and so forth. So this is a concept from evolutionary biology, and it's defined as helping to ensure the thriving of an organism by directly modifying the environment in such a way that it enhances that organism's chances for survival. So what I've done is I've taken this biological construct and adapted it to human culture and come up with a term, positive niche construction, which I define as helping to ensure the thriving of a child, teen, or adult by directly modifying the environment in such a way that it enhances that person's chances for success. I've come up with at least 8 different components of positive niche construction. And again, if you go to video number 5 in my series, you'll get a fuller explanation of these. But the 8 are strength awareness, in other words, knowing as much as you can about what you do well. Positive role models, surrounding yourself with people who are neurodivergent like you and who have done wonderful things in life. Strength-based learning strategies, which is to take what you do well and use it to learn something that you have difficulty with. Enhanced human networks is surrounding yourself by people who see the best in you, who teach you skills, who help you work out your own inner conflicts and develop your own personal goals. UDL stands for Universal Design for Learning and Assistive Technology Tools. These are apps, for example, like Proloquo2Go and speech-to-text software and text-to-speech software and so forth. There are thousands and tens of thousands of these tools now available. Positive career aspirations involves creating an image of a career for yourself that matches what you're good at and what you want to work at. Environmental modifications means looking around at your environment, whether it's at home or at school or in the workplace, and learning how to tweak it so that it is a positive environment, a place where you really want to be. Inner resources is essentially environmental modifications for the inner self. And these include things like positive self-talk, mindfulness meditation, growth mindset, where you have the belief that if you work at something, you'll get better at it, and so forth. So that's just a quick survey. And again, if you want to go into more detail on this, go back to video number 5. This is video number 7 in the series. I should also mention that in future videos, I'm going to be taking these components and breaking them down even further and showing how specific strategies and resources are well directed toward particular neurodiversities that I talk about in the book. All right. Now to negative niche construction. And I kind of, when I was writing my book, The Power of Neurodiversity, I put so much emphasis on positive niche construction that it was almost an afterthought to think about, well, you know, if there's positive niche construction, there ought to be negative niche construction. And so I began to think about it, and it seemed to me that this may be as important as positive niche construction. Because if you don't know what the negative factors are impinging upon a neurodivergent individual, then you're going to be leaving them exposed, vulnerable to all these negative influences. And that may have as devastating an impact as the positive niche construction components have as an affirming and vitalizing effect. So I think it's important for us to know these negative niche construction components and learn how to work with them so that they can cease to be the factors, the negative factors that they are. So just to point out that there is negative niche construction going on in nature, and just a couple examples that I've already talked about. Beavers building dams can create ponds where microorganisms grow that threaten other species. Or birds building nests who take strands from a spider's web to build their nests, thereby weakening the spider's food source. So, you know, nature, as we've learned through ecology thinking, is all interconnected. And if you do something over here, likely it's going to affect something over there. So there is both positive and negative niche construction in nature. So I define negative niche construction in human culture as helping to diminish the possibilities of a child, teen, or adult by directly modifying the environment in such a way that it reduces that person's chances for success in life. And these are things not just that you do, but that everything in the child's environment does that's negative to diminish those possibilities. As a case study, I wanted to use an example to show you a classic case of negative niche construction. And I was reading a biography of Howard Hughes, and I began to realize, you know, this guy really, especially toward the end of his life, really built a negative niche for himself. Howard Hughes was an aviator, very famous for traveling around the world in an airplane. He did it a little later than Lindbergh, but he gained a lot of fame as a result of that. His father had patented a rotary drill bit that was integral to the growth of the oil industry, which made his father and his son very, very rich. He bought a studio, RKO Studios, and produced some pictures that actually became very famous. He made one with, and I'm forgetting the name of it, but with a lot of airplanes in it. And he was constructed air battles, not using computer animation because they didn't have that back then, but using, you know, a fleet of aircraft. And I should point out that he was a bit of a daredevil. He crashed a plane 2 or 3 times, and 3 actors who were in planes during that filming died as a result of the production of the film. So he was a bit reckless, but he also had this neurodivergent trait, or perhaps several of them, but the one that sticks out is OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. He had a fear of germs, and had some very strange habits. And I just want to go over some of the ways in which he built a negative niche for himself in the closing years of his life. First of all, he spent most of his time living in hotel rooms. And once he was in a hotel room, he often never left it for years, if you can believe it. He would pull down the window blinds permanently so it was very dark. He had minimal contact with other people. He had a chain of command of people who were working for him, but only 2 or 3 were authorized to speak to him, and only very briefly at certain portions of the day. So he's really cut off from a lot of social intercourse. He regularly took and was addicted to codeine and Valium. And the strange thing is he was being looked after by 3 physicians were looking at his, responsible for his health. And still he was addicted to codeine and Valium. They did not intervene in these cases, probably because he had so much money and he was giving them such high salaries. But that's, another story. He would layer the carpets and the furniture with paper towels and tissue paper to cut down on any possibility of contact with germs. He rarely bathed, he never shaved or cut his nails, and he was naked most of the time. He would spend most of his time sleeping in bed or watching old movies on TV. And I guess the corker, and the one he's most famous for, is that he kept his urine in bottles stored in the closet. So this is a strange man with a strange lifestyle, and I think it qualifies as a very good classic example of negative niche construction, creating a niche that's very unhealthy for an individual, both psychologically and physically. And he eventually died young as a result of this strange lifestyle. Okay, in the remaining part of this video, I want to compare the components of positive niche construction with negative niche construction. With positive niche construction, we're talking about having strength awareness, being aware of all the things that you're good at. For negative niche construction, it's a person who knows all about what he's not good at, and in fact even makes up things that he is not good at. And so he's surrounded by thoughts of negativity, or she. Instead of positive role models, the negative niche construction person has a social network consisting of criminals, gang members, con men, people that my father used to call unsavories. We also use the term louche, people with not good moral structures. Could also be individuals who are bitingly sarcastic, who are always critical of you, and they could also be, all sorts of other individuals as well. I'll say more about this when I get to enhanced social networks. But here we're talking about, my role models are, Diddy and all these people that I see in the news who've done these awful things. Another component, positive, is strength-based learning strategies. A negative niche construction component is providing yourself more, or having a teacher or a worker or employer, or even a therapist giving you more intensive doses of what you're already failing at. I was a special education teacher for several years, and one of the things that bothered me the most about what was going on there was these kids had failed in the regular classroom, and what we were doing was giving them the same kinds of material, textbooks, worksheets, testing, and it was all the same, but it was more concentrated doses of it. They had to do intensive remediation, and to me, this was not the way to go. You learn something that you need to know by using things that you can do well to accomplish the goal. Positive niche construction involves enhanced human networks, and negative niche construction involves a social network of bullies. And here's where I was talking about sarcastic people, mean teachers. They could be at any point in one's network. They could be non-understanding employers at work who have negative stereotypes about neurodivergent people. And so what we have to do as part of, working with undoing the effects of negative niche construction is find out who the bullies are, for example, in a child's classroom, and being able to somehow manage that so that the child isn't terrorized every day in school. For the UDL and assistant technology tools of positive niche construction, what we have are addiction to media and social media and also mass media. We know that social media is having a terrible effect on our youth, causing suicide rates and suicide ideation to climb, dissatisfaction with one's body image, lower self-concept. Teens will videotape a fight going on and then post it on a platform for everybody to see. I mean, it's a lot rougher than when we were kids, I'll tell you. And that stuff can really tear you down. And so it really qualifies as negative niche construction. Perhaps I should call it negative niche destruction. I just thought of that. At any rate, for positive career aspirations, negative niche construction or destruction might include jobs that are mismatched with a person's gifts. So that a person who has ADHD, for example, would end up in a 9-to-5 desk job. This is someone who needs movement, who needs novelty, who needs change, excitement. And here they are plunked down in a cube farm for 8 hours a day. And that to me can contribute to the construction of a negative niche. Environmental modifications translate in negative niche construction to environmental distractions and energy sappers. And I think of the Cleghorn, the school bell, the announcements from the principal, the announcements from in the workplace that can disturb an individual from their focus, from their concentration. And there are all kinds of other negative environmental issues going on that I will talk about more as we go along in this video series. And then finally, inner resources translates to negative self-talk. So that instead of having a growth mindset where you think, if I work at something, I'll get better at it, you have instead a fixed mindset where you think, well, I was pretty much born this way. I guess I'm just neurodivergent and can't do things the normal way, so I'll just have to live with it. Or just even worse, thinking I'm a failure and I can't really, no wonder I didn't do well on this because you're really no good at it anyway, and I don't know what I'm doing here. I feel like an imposter. Those kind of thoughts can tear a person down and are a major part of negative niche construction. So there we are, 2 different menus, 2 different sets of interventions, or if you want to call them ecological variables, that might be another way of looking at it. The one on the left can result in stronger identity, positive motivation, and a healthier outlook on life, while the one on the right, negative niche construction, all of these things can work together to make things into, a nightmare for an individual, causing stress, dissatisfaction, causing mental health problems that are on top of whatever they have as a neurodivergent person. And so at any rate, these are some of the ideas that I wanted to share with you. I hope you enjoyed the video, that you got something out of it. Remember that I talk more about positive niche construction in video number 5. If you go to YouTube, I have a playlist called Power of Neurodiversity, and you'll find all the videos in this series listed, and you can play them there. Again, my book is The Power of Neurodiversity, and I hope that you get it. I hope that you share it with your family, your friends, your neighbors, your employers and employees, and your teachers and therapists and all others who can benefit from it. You can get my blog posts on these and other topics if you subscribe to my sign-up sheet, which is on my homepage of my website. And if you sign up for the blog post, you will receive a 200-item neurodiversity strengths checklist, which is from the book. It's something that I put together so that someone could fill it out and immediately be cued into their positives instead of their negatives. So you can get this by going to my website at institute4learning.com. That's www.institute4learning.com. So thank you very much for listening and watching the video. I hope it's been useful to you, and I wish you all the best as you go forward, either as a neurotypical or a neurodivergent individual, making the world a better place in which to live. Thank you so much.